WRAT.
Jesus Christ, another one now. No wonder the papers are calling us the year of the rat.
People call them rats because a rat will do anything to survive. Isn't that right, Mr. Hill?
Whether you disagree with it or not, rats are rats, and they will do anything to survive. Whether if it's turning on friends, family members, or even fiancés, they ultimately squander and eventually die. This is a retrospective view of the rats of the Sopranos, and ultimately why they turned on the oath of the mafia. Before we get started, if you enjoy this type of content, be sure to click subscribe and click the bell to get notifications on all upcoming Sopranos content. And be sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram for everything Sopranos related. The first rat that we are introduced to is Jimmy Altieri. When we are introduced to the character of Altieri, he's a captain who runs his own crew. We don't know much information regarding the character of Jimmy, but from what we can see, it looks as if he's been working alongside Tony for some time now. Later on in season 1, at Larry's daughter's wedding, he tells everyone that indictments are on the way and that everyone should possibly lay low for a while. This could have been David Chase foreshadowing to us that the writing was on the wall for Jimmy, and it was ultimately him who was an informant after all. When Larry and Tony decide to hide incriminating evidence with their mothers at Green Grove, they are met by Jimmy, who is trying to get his own mother into Green Grove. But Jimmy isn't so sure that they will accept his mother, with Green Grove wanting to take a look at Jimmy's financial statements, possibly another clue that Jimmy is a rat. While at a card game with Big Pussy and other associates, the game gets busted by the FBI, where they find illegal firearms. Pussy later runs as a result of the raid, but doesn't make it very far. With 2 of Tony's members arrested by the FBI, everyone is extremely worried. However, this is only the least of everyone's troubles, as Tony finds out from corrupt police detective Vin Makazian that his longtime friend Pussy is actually an FBI informant. But it all becomes revealed to Tony when Jimmy shows up to Tony's house after being released from bail during an unexpected visit during dinner time. That the rat in the family is Jimmy and not Pussy. It's when Jimmy starts asking questions about the Colombian drug money, telling Tony about a new fingerprint technique, and starts asking suspicious questions, is where Tony realizes he is the rat. While it's unbeknownst to Jimmy, Tony sees right through his weak attempt at being an informant in his basement. After requesting a pointless sit-down, it's confirmed to everyone that Jimmy is a rat, as he asks to discuss business that has already been discussed within the family. And as a result, Uncle Junior gives Tony the okay to have Jimmy whacked. We later see Jimmy's body in an alleyway with a rat stuffed into his mouth, indicating that he was an informant and worked for the FBI. His reasoning for cooperating is likely being pinched to the gun charge that was nabbed on him during the poker game. While there was confusion between Jimmy and Pussy being rats, unfortunately, we eventually see Pussy too turning to the FBI. In a flashback that Tony had, we see Pussy was selling heroin on the side, and Tony and Jackie Sr. urge Puss to stop selling H. It was around this time in 1995 that Puss was nabbed by the FBI when he fails to show up to a sit-down that he organized. At the yearly Christmas celebration party at Satrial's, Puss showed up already dressed in the Santa outfit and appearing drunk. And as Tony looks back on this scene, this is where he realized that Puss must have turned to being an informant shortly before this, as he gets upset when Polly tries to hug him. And just like Jimmy, he started asking incriminating questions. Puss being an informant was ultimately the FBI's best option for getting close to Tony and ultimately bringing him and his family down, as Puss knew lots of valuable and incriminating evidence unlike any of the other informants. He was close with Tony as he tagged along with him on the murder of Matthew Bevilacqua, helped start an insurance scam, and helped Christopher dispose of the body of Emil Kolar. While he was cooperating, Puss may not have been cooperating fully because he rode along with Tony on his scams and killings. This of course being a crime itself that could add to Puss's 30 years to life sentence. After disappearing during the Jimmy Altieri drama, Puss later returns home claiming to have been in Puerto Rico receiving treatment for his back. Throughout his numerous meetings with Skip Lipari, Puss can often be seen reluctant to share any information regarding Tony, as Puss still displays a soft spot towards Tony. However, things seem to turn quickly when Tony passes up Puss for promotion, with Polly becoming a captain, and newcomer to the crew Furio receives an equal level of duties as longtime member and friend in Puss, resulting in Puss to completely turn against Tony and others, as from this point forward, there is no turning around for Puss. Tony eventually discovers that Puss was working with the government thanks to a string of bizarre food poisoning dreams where Puss was seen as a talking fish. Tony decides to keep Puss with the fishes by killing him on a boat, then dumping his body into the ocean. Shortly after the sudden disappearance of Bun Pincero, the FBI tried to infiltrate their way into Tony's home by bugging a lamp in the basement. But when this wasn't really paying off and Meadow decided to take the lamp with her to her dorm room, the FBI shifted its focus to Adriana LaServa. This was simply due to Christopher's rising status within the family. Adriana was also targeted due to distributing cocaine inside the club that she managed. We all knew the loyalty Adriana had devoted towards Christopher, and because of her love and care for him, she gave the FBI nothing in return. And when we look back to the FBI constantly meeting with Adriana, seeking for information, it was really pathetic on their end, as she was ultimately giving them nothing. While Adriana was loyal to Christopher, we ultimately learned the hard way just how loyal Christopher was to Tony. We see this when Christopher secretly visits him and tells Tony about Adriana being a government informant, all while he was supposed to be out getting cigarettes and actually consider leaving New Jersey with Adriana and joining the witness protection program. But we don't witness this scenario until later in the 6th season, where it's all presented to us in a flashback thanks to Christopher and Tony sharing an uncharacteristic moment together, as what we saw was a shocking scenario of Christopher apparently dabbling into drugs and alcohol again and trying to commit suicide. Of course, this was all a hoax to grab Adriana in and ultimately have her whacked. Shortly after the death of Adriana, we are introduced to two more informants, the first being Ray Curto, who much like Big Puss and Jimmy, Raymond too was a longtime member of Tony's family. While we never really discover why Raymond chose to flip, we do learn throughout the series that he has a son with MS, also known as multiple sclerosis, and that the medication for it cost a fortune. We also saw Raymond get busted with Vin Makazian at a brothel in the beginning of the series. He unexpectedly dies of a stroke while in a car of an FBI agent, and while we never know for certain just how long Raymond was a rat for and just how much information he provided the FBI, as he was never suspected once by any of the DeMeo crime family members, he certainly got what he deserved by being a rat. The second rat that we saw towards the end of the series was Eugene Pontecorvo. The case of Eugene was completely shocking to all Sopranos fans, as we only saw him meet and cooperate with FBI agents only once, and this was in the season 6 pilot episode, Members Only. Eugene cooperated with the FBI as a way to get out of the mafia life once and for all by moving his family down to Florida. While just like Raymond, we never knew how long Eugene cooperated for and what damaging evidence he gave the FBI, with Tony rejecting Eugene's proposal to move to Florida as a result of inheriting $2 million from his aunt. The FBI reluctantly rejects his proposal as well, as they simply want Eugene to focus on taking down Tony Soprano in New Jersey and not in Florida. Faced with a difficult decision, a son who has battles with drugs, a nagging wife, and inheriting $2 million, Eugene ultimately had no choice but to commit suicide to fulfill his family's dream of moving to Florida. And once again, we see Tony and everyone left of his crew dodge another major bullet by having another rat off the streets. While the FBI usually spent their time and money on targeting someone within Tony's family as a potential informant, they never thought of seeking outside the family. That is until they turned construction owner Jack Masserone into an informant. Being revealed to the audience and Tony in the infamous Rat Pack episode, it was discovered that Masserone could be working with the government. And this is all due in part to being tipped off by Patsy when one of his meetings with Masserone was watched by the FBI. So Tony decided to meet with Masserone himself at a local diner. Masserone seemed nervous, jittery, and anxious. But still, Tony wasn't sure if the rumors about Masserone were true after feeling him out. But Masserone sealed his fate with Tony when he stated that Tony had lost some weight, as this is something he would never have done before. And just like Jimmy Altieri, Masserone too was seen killed with an item stuffed in his mouth. While it wasn't a rat since Masserone wasn't a made member, this time it was a sock sending a message to the FBI that his killers and everyone around him knew that he was an informant. Towards the end of the series, we are treated to numerous other characters who are rumored to have been cooperating with the FBI, but are never actually seen on screen with an FBI agent. Of course, there's the rumors of Christopher flipping. Larry Barisi starts to spill when FBI agents are digging up the body of Tony's first murder, Willie Overall, and when Carlo Gervasi suddenly fails to show up for a meeting with Paulie at the Bing, Tony's suspicions raise thanks to Carlo's son getting pinched for drug dealing. Although this was later confirmed by Tony's attorney and by Tony when he tells Carmela in the series finale that Carlo is going to testify to likely keep his son out of jail. But no rat ever had provided so much information to the FBI than Jimmy Petrill, who was John Sacrimoni's consigliere. It was revealed that Petrill had been a turncoat for years by cooperating with the FBI and providing them with information that dated back to Sacrimoni's criminal activities in the early 80s, which was ultimately the turning point for John's arrest. When the FBI is finally able to secure these individuals as informants, they are faced with their entire lives being decided in a matter of moments. When they ultimately decide to flip, we never really know why they did so in the first place. Big Pussy had to turn to avoid spending the rest of his life in jail and keep earning to pay for his son's college education. Raymond too needed to stay out of jail so he too could keep earning to have the ability to pay for his son's medication. Possibly Raymond could have flipped out of fear that if he was incarcerated, his son would die from lack of support from his parents not being able to afford his medication. Eugene sacrificed his family's happiness for his own life. Carlo needed to keep his son out of jail. Jimmy Altieri needed to avoid a hefty gun charge. Larry Barisi wanted to avoid jail. Jack Masserone didn't want to lose his career, marriage, and face jail time, and Adriana LaServa only wanted Christopher in life and nothing more, as all these individuals eventually got what they deserved by dying. What are your thoughts about the rats of The Sopranos? I would love to hear them down in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to click like and click subscribe, and for more Sopranos content, keep it locked here, right here on this channel.